This story is titled, "My Fiancé Didn't Want Children at the Wedding, Not Even My Daughter." But when I arrived at the venue, I saw her 2 children and 6 nephews. So, I just laughed in her face and told her the wedding was canceled. I was 38 years old and was going to marry Addison, a 40-year-old woman, earlier this week. But I canceled the wedding at the last minute. We had been together for 3 years and got engaged 6 months ago. Until the engagement, everything was going well. Things started to go wrong when we began talking about who we wanted to invite to the wedding. Since I have a daughter, I wanted her to be present. But Addison made it very clear that she didn't want children at the wedding. It was a strange stance, especially considering that she has 2 children from a previous marriage. She also has 6 nephews that she is very close with. So, I didn't understand why she didn't want children at the wedding, especially when most of the guests were parents. We had several arguments about it, but in the end, I gave in and told her that it was okay to leave my daughter out of the wedding as long as she didn't invite the children in her family either. To clarify, my daughter is not even a little girl, she's 14 years old. But that didn't matter to Addison. She told me she didn't want to make exceptions and that, although she adored my daughter, her own children and her nephews, she wanted a stress-free wedding and didn't want to offend anyone with children. So, she decided there would be no children at the wedding. I felt quite upset about it, but since she wanted a child-free wedding so much, I thought there wasn't much I could do. She had already made her decision, and the wedding would be very small. We were literally going to get married in my parents' garden with only some friends and family. So, I thought the kids wouldn't miss out on anything special. I agreed with her decision until a couple of days before the wedding when I discovered something. That's when I found out that, even though she had told everyone the wedding would be child-free, she planned to bring her own children and nephews. I was at work when I received an email from her younger sister, Kate. It was a bunch of photos of her 2 daughters dressed in wedding clothes, basically asking for approval. I was confused for a few seconds until I noticed that Kate had sent the email to our shared wedding email address, the one we created specifically for wedding matters like RSVPs and communication with vendors. I knew it must have been an accident, but it was too late. I had already taken a screenshot. Since I was on my break, I had read the email before it was deleted. A few minutes later, when I tried to check the email again, Addison had already deleted it. I was furious about what she was trying to do. But when I got home that day, I didn't say anything. I pretended everything was fine. At first, Addison was acting a little strange, probably afraid that I had read the email and discover her plan. But since I didn't show any signs that I knew, she acted normal again. This was 2 days before the wedding, and I already knew she was up to something behind my back. I decided to talk to my daughter about how she felt about Addison. We had talked before, even before I got engaged, but I thought it would be better to do it again since I was already having serious doubts about the wedding. I was lucky to make that decision because when I spoke to my daughter, she told me that before the engagement, Addison had always been very kind to her. But after the engagement, things broke down. My daughter told me she hadn't said anything before because she saw that I was happy with Addison and didn't want to ruin it. But after the engagement, Addison started acting strangely with her. Every time she came home, Addison acted very differently when I was not around, according to my custody agreement. I have my daughter for half of the month, which is a considerable amount of time. According to what Addison told me, she showed all her charm when I came home from work, but the rest of the time, she was completely ignored, something that hadn't happened before the engagement. I didn't know anything about this until now when she told me. When she told me that Addison wanted a wedding without kids, she thought that probably meant Addison didn't want her in her life anymore. That broke my heart, and she didn't even fight to go. I felt very disappointed in myself for allowing Addison to manipulate me and convince me not to invite my own daughter to my wedding. That's when I decided to cancel the wedding. I spoke to Addison the day before the wedding, but I decided not to come home that night. Addison tried to contact me several times, but I didn't respond. I knew I had to contact my parents later. I asked them to tell her that I would see her on the wedding day instead of coming home. I spent the whole day with my daughter because I felt like I had a lot to make up for. At the end of the day, we both felt much better. After taking her back to her mother's house, I spent the night in a hotel and went directly to my parents' house the next morning, an hour before the ceremony. When I arrived, I noticed that some guests had already arrived, including my future in-laws and Addison's 2 sisters, Kate and Amelia. As expected, the The children of both the 6 nephews of Addison and also her 2 children, all under 12 years old, were running everywhere. When Addison saw me, she rushed to greet me at the door and began to explain to me that although I had specified to Amelia and Kate that this would be a wedding without children, they could not leave the children at home. Also, her parents thought it would be strange to get married without her own children being present. She gave a lot of ridiculous explanations, and I could tell that she thought I was angry. I didn't say anything until she finished talking. Then she started asking me why I was dressed the way I was, where I had been the night before, and other things. I just laughed in her face. I took out my phone and showed her the screenshot of Kate's email, the one I had accidentally sent to the joint account. That was enough to leave her speechless. She knew instantly that she had been caught. There was no way to talk her way out of this. So, she just started apologizing, but it was too late. That's when I thought it would be a good time to tell him what I did the day before. I told her I was with my daughter and that I had found out about how she had been treating her since we got engaged. Of course, I didn't even want an answer or an explanation. I just told him we were over. I explained to her that I wasn't going to marry someone who clearly didn't value my daughter. It was very sad because I had never treated his children differently than I did my own daughter, but it was clear that neither I nor my family had any value in her life. I didn't think it was a good idea for us to get married after that. I didn't even hear her answer. I just left. She called me several times to come back, but I didn't. I got into my car, drove back to the hotel, and since I had nothing else to do, I took a very long nap. I woke up at noon to thousands of messages from people who had been invited to the wedding. My friends and family were very confused, and my in-laws were upset, but I didn't care. I briefly explained the situation to my friends and family and left it at that. Then, I went to see my daughter and told her that I had canceled the wedding too. I promised her that I would spend more time with her because I felt that in the last few months, we had disconnected without giving it attention. I realized that before, if I had a problem with someone, they came directly to me. The fact that I hadn't done that with Addison told me that there was a problem. We both got a little emotional, but at least we were able to solve it. As for Addison, this is what's been hard to process. It's been a couple of days since the day we were supposed to get married, and now almost everyone knows why I called off the wedding. It's not just about her behavior with my daughter, it's also dishonesty. I think that's a big factor for a relationship to work. I have been cheated on twice before this, and I know from experience that it always starts with small lies. To me, any form of dishonesty is intolerable. This was a pretty big lie, and she was hoping to get away with it. So, I don't think I did anything wrong by calling off the wedding at the last minute. Frankly, I can't pretend to care that I did it at the last minute. It may have been unceremonious, but I think it's fair since that was exactly her idea to drop the whole kids thing on me at the last minute. However, her family is very upset. They think I'm being unfair because I didn't even give her a chance to explain herself. Addison, along with the rest of her family, hasn't stopped texting me. All she says in her defense is that she couldn't directly ask me not to invite my daughter, but she had her reasons. She also said that she finds it insulting that after so many years together, I didn't think our relationship deserved at least one conversation before ending it. But she didn't mention her reasons. She told me that she's only going to talk about it in person. It doesn't occur to me what the explanation could be for not wanting to invite my daughter to our wedding. From what I know, she's never had any problems with my daughter, and vice versa. I could see her being confronted the day I found out, but I don't think it would have changed things much. Yet, I should have talked to my daughter, and she probably would have canceled the wedding anyway. Since it was very close to the wedding date, I don't think it would have made much difference compared to the abruptness of the cancellation. This subreddit is for frustrated weddings, so I want to know, what would you have done if someone had canceled your wedding at the last minute? Why did they do it? Update 1. It's been 3 days since my post, and I'm still staying at the hotel. Today, I contacted Addison and told her she had to move out of the house ASAP. After all, it was my house before she moved in, so I think it's only fair that now that we're done, she's the one to leave. I've given her until the end of the month, and in the meantime, I think I'll stay with a friend because I don't think staying in a hotel is a viable long-term solution. Apart from that, I feel much better about my decisions because my friends have assured me that, at the end of the day, I chose what was most important to me. To be a father. I don't think I should feel bad because my daughter is the most important thing in my life. If someone has a problem with that, they can stay out of my life. I won't be apologizing for choosing my daughter. I don't really care what Addison's reasons were. If she can't explain them to me, I don't think I need to hear them at all because, right now, I just don't want to see her. I've also blocked her parents and her sisters since they were clearly in the know of her plan the whole time and didn't say a word to me. It's really disappointing because I actually got along very well with these people, and I had really integrated into their family, or at least that's what I thought before all this happened. Until now, I hadn't responded to Addison, but last night, I told her to look for a place to live. I also told her that whatever the reason was for why she didn't want to invite my daughter, she could explain it to me or just let it go because in the end, the damage has already been done. And regardless of the reason, things between us are not going to change. That was all I had to say, and after that, she hasn't answered. For those who are asking, I'm sorry, but I really don't know what her reasons could be for having such a drastic change of mind about my daughter. I've talked to my daughter a lot about this because I'm very curious, but unfortunately, she also has no idea. She told me that when Addison started acting differently towards her, she was very surprised. She even tried to get the relationship back in the early stages after the engagement. But Addison just kept acting cold and indifferent to all the efforts my daughter made. If anything, Addison was the one with the problem here. According to everything I have heard from my daughter, I know a lot of kids find it very difficult to accept that their parents are moving forward in their lives, but believe me, my daughter is not one of those kids. She is definitely not lying about Addison. To begin with, her mother and I were never married. We had only been dating for 2 years when we had her, and broke up when my daughter was only 3. She barely remembers us being together. Plus, my ex has been married for 5 years. I know for a fact that my decision to move on and marry Addison didn't bother my daughter at all. Like I said, they used to have a good relationship until recently. I am not saying that my daughter is a perfect angel, although, for me, she could be, but I know that she is not a liar and much less about things like this. She knows how much I value honesty and transparency above all in my loved ones. So, I really don't think my daughter is lying to me about Addison. Anyway, it doesn't matter because I don't think Addison is going to open up to me about what her reasons are. It's been several hours since I texted her, and she still hasn't responded. Usually, she is always with her phone, and since she works from home and her job requires her to be active on her mobile constantly, it is very unlikely that she hasn't already seen my message. She responds as quickly as possible, so I'm pretty sure she's just choosing to ignore me now. However, what she doesn't tell me makes no difference. I just want her out of my house, so I can live comfortably there again, since this hotel arrangement is a bit uncomfortable. Plus, I have to go back to work in a couple of days. Update 2. It's been 3 days since I wrote to Addison, and today she finally answered me. She told me she could understand why I didn't want to see her in person, but it was extremely important that we meet, so she could explain to me her reasons for not wanting my daughter at the wedding. She said it was to make sure I didn't end up misinterpreting her, even though we were already separated. She told me she didn't want me to perceive her as the bad guy in the story because, at least according to her, her reasons were completely valid and she didn't want to hurt me. That last part was a little stupid on her part because, in the end, it ended anyway. I responded and made it very clear to her that I wasn't going to talk to her in person anytime soon. Whatever he had to say, he had to tell me via text message, and that was it. About an hour ago, he finally responded, telling me that the reason he didn't want my daughter at the wedding was because of something that happened at the engagement party. Unfortunately, on the day of the party, my daughter wasn't feeling very well. It was my turn to have her that month, and I already knew she wasn't 100%. I told her she could stay in her room that day, but she said she didn't want to miss the party, especially since it was in the same house. Although she felt bad, she decided to attend. A few minutes after I made a toast, she decided to go back up to her room. Of course, many people asked if she was okay or not, but in no way would I say she stole our thunder, which is apparently what Addison thinks she did. Addison claimed she went up to see my daughter after she excused herself by saying she was too sick to stay downstairs with everyone. Addison said she heard my daughter talking and laughing on the phone with someone. At that moment, Addison felt that my daughter didn't seem sick at all. That one incident did not sit well with Addison, and instead of talking to me or my daughter about it, she decided to talk to her sisters. Although I got along well with them, I can't deny that they had a tendency to create problems. That's exactly what they did. The whole thing became something much bigger than it should have been. Addison started pulling away from my daughter after the engagement, believing that maybe, deep down, my daughter wasn't happy that we were getting married and would probably start creating problems in the future. It was all based on that silly incident. I was so disgusted by his behavior that I didn't even respond to Addison after that. To give context, I talked to my daughter about what Addison told me. My daughter said she was actually talking to a friend after going up that day, but that didn't mean she felt any less sick. She still felt bad, but I don't understand what feeling unwell has to do with being able to talk and laugh with a friend on the phone. It was completely absurd. Addison's reasons weren't nearly as valid as she thought. I honestly feel like Addison could have been insecure from the beginning, and that incident just gave her an excuse to stop pretending to be nice to my daughter. I'm lucky I didn't marry her because if I had, I'm sure it would have caused a lot of problems. Now that I think about it, there were many times when she complained that I didn't pay enough attention to her or that I didn't spend enough time with her, mainly when my daughter was around. Although she was the same with her own children, she never complained to me. In previous posts, I mentioned that I had not been able to dedicate enough time to my daughter, and one of the main reasons for that was Addison. I didn't really notice it because it was very subtle, but she constantly found ways to keep me busy, both emotionally and with tasks. I didn't even realize what she was doing. I guess I never connected the dots because I was too invested in our relationship. The red flags didn't appear until it was too late. I'm glad we got out of that relationship. If we were going to be together at the expense of my relationship with my daughter, then I didn't want her, especially after that stupid message Addison sent today. I don't even know what to think about it. For a moment, I considered responding to her and telling her a few truths because I couldn't believe she ruined our relationship over something as stupid as this. It could have been resolved by just talking. But then I decided not to because it's really not worth it. I would rather just ignore her until it's time to see her again. Unfortunately, that will probably be soon because I need to get back to work, and for that, I need my clothes. I'll have to come home to pick them up. I just hope she finds a place to stay soon because, although I've talked to a couple of friends who are more than willing to let me stay with them, frankly, I just want to get back to my house. I really want her to leave now. Update 3. 2 days ago, I posted here, and today I went home to pick up my clothes and other things. I moved out of the hotel because it was getting too expensive. As I was on my way to a friend's house, I thought I would stop by the house and pick up everything I needed. I didn't reply to Addison after the last message she sent me. I just blocked her. So, I had no way of knowing if she would be home or not. I decided to take the risk and arrived in the afternoon. Unfortunately, she was home. She seemed very upset when she saw me, and I could tell that she really wanted to talk to me. I rushed to pick up everything I needed because I thought the quicker I finished, the quicker I could leave. However, she made no effort to make it easier for me to pick up my things. Just when I was about to walk out the door, I told her that I really wanted her to find a place to stay so I could get back to the house as soon as possible. Then I started walking toward my car, but she kept talking to me the whole time. She told me that she really regretted everything she had done. She admitted that she shouldn't have lied to me and that she should have been honest instead of making a big deal out of that incident at the engagement party. She admitted that she had been very immature about the whole thing and had exaggerated something insignificant. She also said that the way her sisters had put it to her made it seem like a huge problem. Apparently, she had even had a recent fight with them because she realized that they had inadvertently ruined our relationship. Listening to her explanation made me curious, so I asked her what she thought would happen when I arrived at the wedding and saw that there were children but my daughter was not there. She said she hoped I would marry her anyway because my love should be stronger than that. I told her that if she loved me, she wouldn't have made me choose between the love I had for her and my daughters. After that, she was practically begging me for a second chance. She said this time she would make it work for both me and my daughter. Hearing that made me so sad because it was too little, too late. As soon as I got close to my car, I told her I understood how she felt. I explained that it hadn't been easy for me to give up on us either, but that I had to because, to me, nothing was more important than my daughter. I told her that I owed it to my daughter to do the right thing. I could tell that Addison was about to cry, and I really didn't want to deal with it. Quickly, I said goodbye, reminded her to find a new place, and left. I felt like a bit of an idiot doing that to her, because seeing her in person was a lot harder than just talking to her over text. But it had to be done, so I have no regrets. Anyway, now I'm staying with a friend, and hopefully in a couple of weeks, Addison will have found another place to live, and I can resume my normal life, or whatever normal means from now on. I'm pretty sure it will take me a long time to recover from everything. The only good thing that has come out of this situation is that my relationship with my daughter has become stronger than ever. We have gone back to how we were before the engagement. She is telling me everything about her life again, and there are no secrets between us. She feels good. Today, when I spoke with her, she was excited on FaceTime, talking about her day at school, and I felt like it was all worth it. We are even planning a trip to the beach in a couple of weeks. I have also invited a couple of my friends with kids her age to join because I think I really need a break and to have some fun considering how difficult the last few weeks have been for me. Update 4. Sometimes you don't find out what kind of bullet you dodged until time passes. But let me tell you what I mean. A friend who is a lawyer told me I should give an eviction notice to Addison, partly to be reassured that I was doing everything according to the law, but also because it had been almost 2 weeks, and she hadn't found anything to move out. So, my friend helped me file one. Since my jurisdiction requires that it's 60 days for someone to leave the house, there wasn't much to do other than wait. I could have returned home, but I didn't want to live with her for 60 days, much less after what she did. I don't think that would have changed much of what finally happened because, at some point, she would have left the house and things would have happened anyway. But for those who can't imagine what my ex did in my house, I'll tell you, she destroyed my house. Luckily, it wasn't too much because, considering how angry I was, I think she could have burned the whole place down. This happened a few days after giving her the notice, and if it wasn't for a neighbor who heard noises and called the police, she probably would have continued. Like I said, I don't think it would have made a difference having been living there. She could have destroyed everything when she had to leave the house. Unfortunately, the legal steps to evict someone here require an eviction notice. I'm the first one who would have wanted her to leave as soon as possible. The good thing is that when the police arrived and saw what she had done, they detained her, and that served to evict her from the house. It also served as proof of what she had done. The next thing I did was sue her for all the damages. Luckily, I recently won that lawsuit, and now I only have to collect the money. I have already repaired many of the things she damaged. The only thing left is for her to pay me the money or face more problems for not complying with the court order. But yes, I dodged a bullet, and I feel very good about that. All this would have been more expensive if we were married. Right now, the last I heard from her is that her ex is asking for full custody of her children, taking advantage of everything that happened. I can't say Addison is a bad mother, but I also can't blame the guy for not wanting her around his kids. But it's not like I care much about what's going on in her life. So unless it's something that affects me or my daughter directly, I think this will be my last update talking about Addison. What do you think about this story? Have you ever experienced something similar, or do you know someone who has? Share your thoughts in the comments. Don't forget to hit the notification bell and subscribe to the channel for more amazing stories.